In this video, I'll be showing you how to create a client portal by just using Airtable's native interfaces feature and the Fillout form tool. Here we have two screens, one for products, one for shipments. Go back to products. Then we have the buttons here, which were created using the Fillout form tool. So I can add a new product and it will go to the page for the Fillout form to complete it. And when I submit that, I will create a new product. And then I can edit the product by clicking the edit, and now open up a new Fillout form and with the existing details pre-populated. Here also, if you're familiar with Airtable interfaces, there is no access to the data, so it's purely a read-only view with these form buttons. As you know, there are already a number of great client portal solutions out there which let you build beautiful client portals such as Stacker and Softer. So who would be best suited for this type of approach using just Airtable's native interfaces? So I'd say who this is best for is if you just have simple requirements to expose a few pages to clients, or you're trying to MVP a solution to test the overall process but before deciding on another tool such as Stacker or Softer. Maybe you're already on an Airtable Pro plan or you're looking to upgrade. You don't want to use a new tool. There is a bit of a learning curve to those tools, and there is additional cost too most times. And if you're not don't require too much control over the branding and UX, especially because we're using a lot of native Airtable functionality for the user login and a lot of the navigation. So if you feel like these are the things that you're comfortable with and you'd be happy to just have a very simple solution, then this could be a great approach to creating a very simple client portal. So before we can set up the client portal, we just need to set up a few things. Here is an example of an inventory management and ordering system where clients place their orders for their products for this inventory management system for a warehouse. And then we can ship out their orders, and they also send incoming shipments as well to the warehouse. So if you the first thing we need to do is to ensure that every table that we're interested in exposing to the client, so products, orders, and shipments, they all have a client lookup, a linked record field. So here, make sure we have a new table for clients. We have a list of clients there, and then for every item, here we have the RoboLite Corp company. So for each of their products, their client name is linked to each of the products listed there. And this is a test one, just so I can do some testing. So you can see how these have the test account linked to it. So that's the first thing we need to do to make sure that when we start creating the client portal and restricting the views there, we can ensure that the clients can only see their own products. And with a lot of these views, you'll notice that by default, you'll probably have a lot of different things showing. So a lot of information that's probably not relevant to the client. So things like, I might have some costings that I don't want to show the clients, some other details. So here's where we create a client specific view, and we restrict all the information that we only want to have public facing. So that's another thing that we create, and we create just one of those. There's a lot of other ones here because this is kind of a site that's being used. It was previously copied from production version, but here we just need to create this client view and just show a limited number of fields that are applicable for the client. So then we can then use that as the base view for the interfaces and the client portal. So after we've set up these views, so here in this view I've hidden the client name from the view that's going to be shown to the client. We're going to jump over to the interfaces. We'll go to edit mode. And here we have our two pages that are already existing, the products and shipments. Normally I would just duplicate one of these and just change some of the details, but here we'll just set up one from scratch. So I'll add a new one, and I'll choose the blank layout. Finish. Okay, so I'm going to add a grid. That's going to be the first thing I'm going to add, and I want to make it go full screen, full width, and this grid is the orders. So we're creating an order form. We'll make this view only, and now I'm going to add some text. So the page title, so I'll put it at the top. Let's go orders. I'd also add the name of the customer here, so RoboLight Orders, just so it's a bit more personalized. But you don't have to, because otherwise when you do this, you will need to change this for each time we duplicate one of these interfaces, which I'll show you at a later stage. I will add another text field and we'll put it at the top. And this will be our logo. So we're essentially doing a text logo because we can't add images here. And then I'll make it like this. So we got our logo, we got our page name, and then we got our table here. I'll just reduce the size of this table so we can add some details below. So we have, as you can see, this is the default view. We have the client name there, and we have the order ID and other details there. But what we want to do is copy that custom client view. So we'll go copy settings from a view for orders. So we had created this orders client view, and then it will copy. So it's removed the client name from the list. It's also grouped it by the different statuses. But you can still see we have another client in there, which is the test account. So what we want to do is just make sure we just limit it to specific records. So this is the RoboLight interface. So what we want to do is say where the client name is exactly, and then we just pick the client name. RoboLight Corp. So here, created the filter, and now the only orders that will be showing are RoboLight orders for this client. So here, this is pretty much set in terms of what we can view here. So next thing we want to do is add the button in order to add a new order. So we'll be adding a button. Put it down below. So here our destination. So this is when we start having to create the forms using Fillout. I'll just add some text onto it first. So we say new order. It's this, the action. I will open it in a new tab. So I'll just say done for now. Okay, and that's what it looks like. Oh, no. Sorry, I haven't previewed it yet, published it yet, so I'm not going to get the full view. We'll publish, and this is what it's looking like so far. Okay, so we have the button there. It's not active at the moment. We'll have to rename this as well. Orders. Okay, we've got it essentially set up, ready to go, and then now we'll have to do a few things with Fillout in order to get the buttons active for adding a new order, as well as editing an existing order that we have here. So why do we use Fillout instead of just the Airtable forms? Because Fillout lets you use one form for both adding and editing records across multiple clients. This can still be done in Airtable if you wish, and I have done it for the original inventory management system that the base is based on, and but it is quite time consuming to do that because there's a lot of filtering that you require with filtered different custom views and custom buttons for every single client. So it's much easier to do this just using Fillout's features. And with Fillout too, you can also create new link records, which is very handy because one of the specific requirements for this inventory management system is when you put an order, you have order line items, and with Fillout, it lets you create these new line items in a single form. It's very easy to use and simple to set up, and they have a pretty generous free plan. So that's why when I learned about Fillout, it was a great way of handling all these requirements for this client portal. So now jumping into Fillout, we can add a new form, and I'll select the option of connecting to an existing integration. So we'll go to Airtable, and I'll pick the plain theme. You can change it later. And I have a couple of Airtable accounts I've already connected. You'll be prompted to connect your Airtable account if you're connecting for the first time. So I'll just pick this one. Okay, next. Now I picked my Airtable base, and I will be doing this one, and the table will be the orders table. So I'll create my form, order form, give it a name, and now we're presented with a whole bunch of Airtable fields here on the left. So I will be adding some fields, for example, the client name. So I want to be able to select the client. I'll go order name, so I'll just do a search, order name, oh yeah, it's a text field, add under there, and then order type, the order type, at the moment it's like a radio select, so we're going to change that to be a drop down, so the order type. And also for the order type, I want to make it have a default value, which is this FBA prep. So for the default values, I will enter it here. Okay, and then I'll have a ship to address. Ship to address. And before I add the line items, so line items, I'll add that there. And this, for the line items, it's actually, we'll be creating a new record in a new table in Airtable. So what I want to do for this one, I want to say we can create new records for this, and only show new records. So I'll only show new records rather than existing ones in the form. Next, last one I'll enter is the status. So when someone submits an order, I want to know the status. There is some options there. By default, it should be requested. So I will just type in requested. Okay. So we have our form here. We'll just preview it. So here's what the form will look like. It is a bit plain, so it's probably saying that we want to style later in order to match our client portal. You can see a few things here. By default, when you click on client name, you'll be able to see all the different clients that we have in the system, and we don't really want to be able to see other clients. We don't want to show clients who our other clients are. These fields you can customize as well, but the main thing is that we want to restrict what clients can see of other clients. And with this also the status, it's always going to be requested. So that's probably another thing that we can just have set up by default. And there's no title for this form yet. So I really want to add that, and also the theming that I mentioned before. So we'll exit the preview. And here at the top, we'll just add a heading. So I'll go order form. Okay. And I mentioned about the client name, how we didn't really want it to be visible to all the other clients. So what we can do is actually create what they call a mapping, and that will map the client name directly, and we can hide that field so it doesn't have to be something selectable. And we can use the URL parameter to pre-fill that value. So if we go into integrations, we go to Airtable settings. So at the moment, here's how they've been mapped. So the client name is, if we hover over that, it's whatever the page details of the client name, and the status is also whatever we've entered in. So rather than doing that, we will go into here and say use a URL parameter, and it says we don't currently have one set up, so we'll create one and we'll add a new one. So I'll create a parameter name, client ID, and add parameter. And I'll also add another one, client name, client underscore name, URL parameter. And with these now, I can pass through some URL parameters for the client ID, which would be the client's record ID, and then the client name as well in the URL parameter. So if we go back into the integrations here, so now we've added that, I can go URL parameter, and I will say the client name is going to be the client ID, and the status is something different. So that one's now the URL parameter. The status, I want to make it static, so the user can't change it. So here I will click static value. So I'll insert a static value, and that is requested. I'll go OK, and then if you hover over that, you can see that the static value is requested. The client URL parameter is client ID, and then we hit done, and then we'll go back into the edit. Now if I click on this, it says it's not connected because we've got another mapping happening. So I can actually remove this field, and the status is saying not connected. These other ones, they're still all connected. At the top you see that. So here we have the client name, I added that. So what I'll do is here I'll add a URL mapping field where I can pick the client name. So insert client name, space there. So we'll say client name and order form. So similar to how we wanted to not give access for other people to see all the different clients in the system, the order line items is something that we also want to restrict. So we preview the form, and then when you go to click add line items, it'll pop up a new dialog box. And with the SKUs, if you click add SKU, it will actually list all the different client SKUs. So you have the RoboLite SKUs, and then you also have the test product SKUs. So we don't want that. We want to restrict it, the client to only see their SKUs in this list. So we'll exit the form preview, and when we enter this form, we go to edit record creation form. This is like the child form. So it has the SKU quantity, it'll pre-populate by default. These are all fine. We'll probably want to add a title. So we'll go, so line items. And then add the, we also want to add the client name. So we go URL parameters. Okay, with this one, because it's kind of like a sub form, you have to also recreate all the URL parameters that you created in the parent form. So I'll configure it. So we'll just add the same, so client D and client name. We want it to match, so because the parent form will be still displayed in the URL, and we need this kind of like the sub form to reuse the same parameters. We go back to edit. So here, I'll just redo that at URL parameter, client name. Okay. So I mentioned that the main thing we wanted to achieve with this, the list of SKUs, is to restrict the viewing of other client SKUs. So when we click on the SKU field, there's advanced section here, normally be collapsed. But here we'd go down to, you can limit by view, filter show, filter search by, but we'll go to edit filters. And we don't want client name, we want the record ID. So this is a record ID of the client that equals URL parameter, client ID. We'll go done. So now when we click on this, it should be filtering by the client's, it only should show the client's respective SKUs. So we'll return back to the parent form. So another thing we mentioned was customizing the theme. So when we look back at the Airtable interface, so I'll switch to the interfaces view. Here you can see we have this left bar side nav on the left, and the logo at the top. You can't really put a proper logo in, so it's just text. So all we can do is actually just kind of replicate that similar look and feel, having this left solid color bar and this text logo on the top right. I'll hit done here so we can just see what it looks like for real in the preview full mode, publish mode. So back in Fillout, we can customize the theme, and by customizing the theme, we can just open the theme, choose a theme. I think we had this one, we'll edit this one. So there's a few options here already. For the logo, as I mentioned, you can't really use the, in Airtable interfaces, it's only really a text logo. So kind of like a workaround to make it look similar will be just to copy and paste, do a screenshot of this logo and paste it into Fillout. So you probably need to make it expand it a bit. So if you use your browser window to increase the size a bit, and then take a screenshot of that, and that can be your logo. And with this, the sidebar, because the Fillout default templates are quite wide, we'll need to do something else with here. So with this one, we can add a logo, and I'll do an upload, and I'll show you what my logo looks like. So this is one I cut and pasted before, and I will paste that in there. Again, as I said, if you want complete control, you probably have to use another system, but this is kind of like a simple solution if you just wanted to provide some access to your clients. So the here with the sidebar background, we can use this one where there's a background on the left. This obviously won't work for us, this big color, but we can change the image. And as I mentioned, with this one, we might have to tweak it a bit because it is quite wide, this compared to this. So you may need to get into a simple photo editing, or if you have a little tool where you can just do a solid color of this into a width that is similar to this. So I do have an image that is similar to this. I think I just rotated a vertical one so it goes quite wide, and I'll just paste that in. Yep, there you go. All right, now I'll set the image. So now that kind of has a similar-ish look and feel to something like this. I'll go back to normal scale. So yeah, so that's how you can kind of get a similar look and feel to the Airtable interfaces, which is quite limited. Okay, so now we'll go and publish our form. So we'll take a copy of this form link, and we'll go back to Airtable and add a column for the order URL prefills. So back in Airtable, we'll go to the Clients tab. We have these existing product form and shipment form URL. I'm going to just duplicate this. Okay, I'll rename it order form. And I will just paste the new one below. So basically it's all the same, except let's replace that unique code here, record ID, client name. Okay, We've actually changed it slightly. I called it client ID. So to make sure it's client ID instead of client, and all those other details are the same, where we want the record ID for client name, and then for the actual client name itself, it's actually the text, it's this. So I'll save that. Okay, now I will copy, so for RoboLite, every client has their own unique URL. So here I'll copy that. I'll jump into the interface here, and I've got the button here, didn't have a destination, so I'll paste it in here. So that button should be active. Let's publish that. Publish. Okay, now that's all good to go. Okay, so now we'll switch to the client portal view for actual client. I've opened an incognito window with the client logged in. So this is what they see. And we'll go to the orders tab. And here in the orders, we'll go new order. So I want to test things out. So here it opens a new fill out order form on a new tab. The name of the client has been pre-populated here. I'll go to the order line items. So again, the name of the client has been populated here. I'm going to check my SKUs to make sure only the client's name has been, SKUs are showing. Okay, so we have an issue here. This is actually showing some other client SKUs. I believe I know what's going on. So we'll just switch back to fill out. We'll click on the order line items. Edit record creation form. I just want to see what's going on here. With the SKUs, we have the edit filter. Okay, so record ID, that's fine, equals client. There's actually a typo here. Instead of client, I said client ID. So I know what's the issue now. So I'll go over to my settings, go to URL parameters, I'll add a new, it's client ID, add parameter. I'll actually remove this one. Okay, and we'll go back to edit, go back to this form, this field, edit the filter. So we'll go to URL parameters and now pick the right one. Done, parent form. Okay, I think it automatically publishes those child forms. So we'll switch back to our client portal view. Close this up, open the new order again. We'll just check this out. When I hit the SKU, I should only now see the RoboLite items, which is correct. So, so with this order form, I'll just give it a name, test order, ship to address. I'll just leave that blank. Order line items, let's add a few line items. So I'll add this, quantity 100, services, I'll just say polybag, hit submit. That's added there. And then here, I actually forgot to enable where you can add multiple line items. So here in this order line items, you can actually select multiple. So that's where you can add more than one. I'll turn it on for now and publish that. So after enabling adding multiple line items, I will actually close this form down. Let's just redo it again. And we'll go new order. Our test order just kept our previous values, actually kept that even. So we'll, which is actually nice. Then we'll add another SKU. So go 101, 200, add services, and then I will submit. And here we have something called test order, order type FBA prep, the line items are these two, and I will submit it. Okay, now we'll go back into Airtable, our Airtable portal. Okay, so here it's automatic. It's already updated this interface. So we have the requested of this. So it's the status of requested was already pre-filled, hidden. Here we have the line items that we had added, and this is yeah, basically it's all working fine. The order creation step. So the next thing we want to do is actually enable us to edit the order. So going back to Fillout, the edit, changing the form to being an edit form is actually quite easy. We go to the Integrations tab, hit Airtable, and then by default it was Create Record, but now we want to change it to Update Record. They actually created this URL for us, the Airtable record ID. So it's basically in the order table. This is what we need to add a new button for. So I'll copy this. I will also publish the form, so it is edit form now. So back in Airtable, we have these our form buttons for the shipments. So for orders, I want to go to the client view and add a new button here. I'll say edit order button, label is edit. I'll make it a proper button, open URL here. Okay, so there's a few things we need to kind of add in there though. So the client name, we have to add the, so I have to separate that out, add an and the client name would be client name, okay, and the client ID is that record ID for the client. So again, I will need to, actually there's too many there. Record ID from client name. Okay, with the client name too, we probably want to make it a, if there's some spaces there, we can change that using the URI encoding function. Sorry, URL encoding function component, yep. And then wrap that around in that. Get rid of that space. Client ID equals this, and the record ID, yep. So I'll create the field. All right, great. So now when we hit this, we can just test it out here. So these items have been pre-filled and they're ready for changing. So and since we've made a change to the view, we'll have to go back to the interface and update the interface view settings. So let's go back to the interface. Here is the orders, and you can see here the button hasn't appeared because by default it just copies the settings from a view, doesn't update dynamically. So we'll just redo that, copy settings from a view, the orders client one, and now that's done, and we'll publish. So now it's finished publishing. Let's go back to the client's view. So this is the client view. The orders, okay, the view is now, the edit button's now visible in the client view. We'll go to edit. That should pre-fill, and I'll go edit here, and I will change this to new address. I will add a line item as well. I'll add actually a 105, 100, polybag, I'll add that 105 and I'll actually delete the 101. Okay, I'll submit that. Okay, now we go back to our client portal. So now the name of the order has been edited, the address field has been edited as well, and I can now see that there's the 105 has been added and the 1001 has been removed. So now we've got a fully functioning client portal where you can add a new order and edit in an existing order. So now we've set up the client portal for this client RoboLight. Let's set up for another client and see the steps involved in doing that. So let's go back to Airtable. We have a new client called Medini. Their details are here. Their email address is there. They've been added already. The fill out form buttons are already their formulas, so we can just copy them across. So let's jump back into the Airtable interfaces. And here is our interface for RoboLight, and it's all set up, all correct, all working fine. So let's go and duplicate this, duplicate interface. Okay, now I want to call it Medini. All right, you can see there's some customizations we need to do on this for each of the pages. So I'll first change that, and the table itself is showing RoboLight's details. So what we want to do is actually just show Medini's details, and that was by the specific record. So edit conditions is exactly Medini, remove RoboLight. Okay, and there'll be nothing to show by default. The button we also need to update. So going back into Airtable, we'll go to the product form, copy this, and that's it for that page. So it's not too many things, it's a few things like the title, the filtering, and then the URL here. And we'll repeat the same steps for shipments. I'll just copy this over, makes it easier for me to copy. Here, oops. The filtering again. Okay, client code is ROBE. All right. I want to change that where the client name is exactly Medini. Yep. Okay, and then the shipments, the button, I need to change that for this client too. Okay, and I'll repeat the same steps for orders. Okay, Medini orders with specific records. Medini, yep. The button here. Copy this. Oh, oops. Then, okay, so we've set it all up. We got Medini here, the tables for Medini, by default, it'll be empty because nothing to show, and we've updated all the buttons. So they're the steps you need to do to recreate a new client. So as I mentioned, if you got hundreds or thousands of clients, it's not going to work. If you're only onboarding a client every now and then, this could be quite a good method in order to create a simple client portal. Next, we'll publish this. Okay, we'll just close this for now. Okay, so here we are. We have the Medini client portal, shipments, and orders. So the next step is to share this interface with the client. So this is the email address. And one step that I wanted to check was to make sure the interface settings to prevent sharing. So we want to make sure the client isn't able to share this with anyone else. So we'll go to Edit, click in here, and it should be, it's down here, the Restrict Interface Sharing. So we just have to make sure that is turned on. And I believe we'll probably need to publish again, or maybe Airtable just saves that setting. So okay, so that's fine. Then we want to share this interface. Share, so we can just pick Medini only. Okay, and we go next. And what we do is we'll get invite by email. Okay. And we want to make them a read-only access, so they cannot do any changes or to the base database. So I'll send out an invite to them. So now we'll jump over to the client email that they will receive from Airtable. So they've received an invitation to view the client portal Medini. Accept the invite. Just copy the email address first. And the client will be presented with a sign up page. Actually, the email address is pre-populated by default. So I'll put Bruce, password. Okay, create an account. So this is only if the client does not already have an existing Airtable account. So they'll be prompted to pick something here. They can either skip it or hit something. Either way, it's only just a one step. So hit continue, and then they're presented to their base. So you just hit finish there, and this is the client view. So you can see the shipments, the orders. All they can do, they can't see the data at all. If they just hit back home, all they see is this. They don't see the underlying base. And in the share button, they can't share it with anyone, request to share. They have to send it to the workspace owner. They can't forward it to anyone else. And access, all they do is they can see the owner of the base and just themselves, not any other clients. So here I can add a product. So here the client name's displayed Medini. One Medini product 1 XYZ 1 2 3. Submit. Okay, I'll close that down. And that product is there. Again, I can edit that. I'll change it to product 1. Edit. Submit. It's been edited. Then I'll create a shipment. Go to the shipments. Go new shipment. Shipment name, test. I'll just add the shipment contents here. So I want to add here, Medini, I can only see that one product there. Quantity 100, 1 carton. Submit. I'll just submit that. Okay. Close that down. Now the shipment has been added. Here you have the submitted state and the product added there. So that sums up the client portal creation for a new client, and this is the view that the client would have. And yeah, so that's how you can create a native Airtable client portal just using interfaces and the fill out form functionality. If you'd like to see more videos like this, or to see how we can help streamline your business, please visit us at prestoflow.com.